What are your thoughts on Pat Robertson's demise? Do Kenneth Copeland next? As Clarence Darrow said, I have never killed anyone, but I have read a number of obituaries with great satisfaction. Wish I weren't on the clock, so I could pop a bottle of champagne. Anyone who cheers the AIDS epidemic as God tending to his garden is not a person I am particularly unhappy to hear is no longer around. Edit. My wording is a bit circular here, but to be clear, he was a bad person and I am happy that he's gone. I love that he died during Pride Month. Lol. Nothing of value was lost. Misread this as Robert Pattinson lol. His death came 93 years too late. Before some of y'all start hating on me, remember he's gone to his reward and now is in the place he always belonged. I'll let you interpret that however you want.
Took too long.
The world is sometimes better off without certain people, and he is one of those. That asshole hid behind fake religion to justify and spread his messages of hate while profiting handsomely from it. Pretty much the most reprehensible type of person there is. Rather than an obituary, he should have a son of obituary written about him. Good riddance. Well, I can finally say there's one good thing about him. Hell, if there is one, just got a new resident. Happy. Generally I think celebrating someone's death is tacky. But when the person is as evil as Robertson, and has caused mass suffering the way he did, you know, I don't care if it is tacky. He was an evil liar who deliberately caused large amounts of suffering and coaxed those who believed him to be cruel bigots, or for those who already were, to be crueler and more bigoted and feel justified and righteous about it. Robertson may be dead now, but there are millions of people still alive and still, righteously, oppressing and harming millions of other people thanks to Pat Robertson's despicable work. The old video of Frank Zappa talking about Pat Robertson has been making the rounds. But for those who haven't seen it, this video interview. Near the start of the interview they talk about a song Zappa released on Broadway the hard way. 1988. Not my favorite album but has some juicy biting lyrics. Called, When the Lie's So Big. About Christian fundamentalism and Pat Robertson specifically. Zappa quotes this bit, when the lie is so big. As in Robertson's case. That sinister face behind all the Jesus horror could result in the end to a worrisome trend in which every American not born again could be punished in cruel and unusual ways by this treacherous cretin who tells everyone that he's Jesus's best friend. In the video interview he goes into much more detail about why Robertson was a dangerous, corrupt, lying, evil man. Throughout his career, and especially in the 80s, Zappa was very outspoken about the growing danger of Christian fundamentalism. I was around then and I remember there being an alarming number of televangelists on TV who, to me, were transparently evil con men. A bunch of times I saw televangelists claiming they could heal you through the TV. They would hold their hand up to the camera for, lay on hands, faith healing. Whatever ailment you might have, just put your hand on the image of his hand on the TV and the healing power of Jesus will come to you through the TV. Not from Jesus directly even but through the televangelist's deep connection to Jesus. But oh no, the poor televangelist needs money to stay on the air and continue to fight Satan. You want to fight Satan, don't you? So send money. It will make the TV healing more powerful, and think of all the other people who will be helped, and all the satanic things like D&D and gay people that could be stopped, banned. Just don't look behind the curtain where the televangelist keeps his multiple private jets and luxury mansions. Pat Robertson was the best at this kind of grift. Preying on the gullible, confused, and desperate. A real role model for televangelists in the 80s. This interview was 35 years ago, with Zappa explaining that Christian fundamentalists like Pat Robertson want to make the U.S. into a theocracy, with an alarming number of politicians, especially, but not only, Republicans. Zappa says, being all buddy-buddy and helping the theocracy process get started. A process that is actually coming to fruition today in states like Texas, which might not be a full-blown theocracy but sure is working on it. As are a scary number of other states. Heck, there's a state politician in my state who seriously wants to create a Christian army, turn the state and country into a literal theocracy, and get the apocalypse started. The second coming of Jesus is imminent. Don't you know? For these kind of people, actual politicians with real power, the problem of climate change, to pick just one thing, is irrelevant because Jesus will be here any day now. Like his music or not. Zappa was totally correct about Pat Robertson and fundamentalist Christianity in general. Sad that Zappa died of cancer in 1993 when only 52 years old. He would be 83 today if he hadn't died. I can only imagine what good he might have done over those 3 decades lost to cancer. I mean, he kinda criticized everything and everyone, though typically in sarcastic jokey ways. Still often cringe-inducing. But in the 80s the Christian fundamentalism was his biggest concern for the future of the country. His criticisms of fundamentalism and televangelists were often funny. But under the surface of jokes he was dead serious about Christian fundamentalism being evil and a serious, growing danger. Had Zappa lived, I'm sure he would have only increased his public denouncements of people like Pat Robertson and his effort to wake people up to the danger Christian fundamentalism was, and still is, to the very foundation of the United States as a democratic, ostensibly secular country. It's also interesting the words Zappa uses for his fear about the future U.S. Way back in 1988, I have this horrible fear that the United States is wending its way toward becoming a fascist theocracy. The topic always makes me think of Zappa's 1981 song Heavenly Bank Account. Pat Robertson isn't mentioned by name, but it is clearly about him and those trying to be like him. The lyrics mention his wheeling and dealing with politicians up to and including the president, i.e., Reagan, then continue on to governors. The governors agree to say, he's a lovely man. He makes it easier for them to screw all of you. Yes, that's true. 'Cause he helps put the fear of God in the common man. Snatching up money everywhere he can. And so on. Plus the classic, there's a big difference between kneeling down and bending over. Anyway, sorry for ranting a bit. I am sure if Zappa was alive to see Pat Robertson's death he would be celebrating it, while also being frustrated about how successful Robertson was in spreading hate and bigotry in the name of Jesus, and the increasing theocratic tendencies occurring in many states. Would that Pat Robertson died in 1993 instead of Zappa. Thoughts and prayers. S. Rest in piss. An unrepentant grifter who used religion to prey on the vulnerable. We are the richer for his loss. Very much so. In the case of those who donated to him, I don't believe there is a hell. But if there were, it would reserve a special place for him and those like him. He gets to ride Satan's 7-level slide. Ding dong, the witch is dead. It's good when toxic people leave the world.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Heracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.